Let's see. Atik wants to know. I'm guessing is jQuery gonna die? Let's just rephrase it as that.
Maybe. I mean, it's gonna be around for quite a bit though. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I think increasingly people are using vanilla instead of jQuery just because vanilla JavaScript has gotten better over the years and they've added more features to it. So personally, I don't use jQuery at all. Twitter Bootstrap dropped jQuery.
Yeah, I think that's part of the nail in the coffin for jQuery, I think.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think I like vanilla JavaScript better. It's just my opinion, but it doesn't mean that you won't see it in the wild for sure.
Yeah,
so
we're saying it's more.
I saw a project the other day where half of a function was written in jQuery and the other half was written in vanilla.
Oh wow!
You could tell that they were struggling with like what,
Okay, so maybe they couldn't get it to work in jQuery, or they just wanted to use jQuery, but they didn't get part of it to work.
Yeah, and then they did the rest in vanilla. So
I guess that's the thing about that is the thing about jQuery, right?
You can
interchange it with regular vanilla JavaScript, and it will work.
Yeah.
It's not like it's all dependent on that. You could use a jQuery variable in one thing and then just abandon it for the rest of it, and it will still work, right?
Yeah.
But I agree. I think it's one of those things that we're still going to see because it's legacy, right? It's still going to be out there because there's lots of things already written in it. So it's not like it's going away, but it's also one of those things.
I wouldn't spend time learning it if I'm. I wouldn't spend. In other words, like if I see it now, I'm so far removed from it. I just Google everything. What is that? What's that $sign? What are they doing there?
Right. Well, that's the hint, right? You see the dollar sign, you're like, oh man, they use jQuery. Like,
what is that?
I gotta figure this out.
Look at it. Yeah. So let me go Google that.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. You don't hear people talking about it now. That's for sure. In terms of like, I'm learning jQuery. You see it again in use, and you see people that have used it in the past. So we taught it up until a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we just quit doing it and then I just made sure that the staff doesn't show it anymore. We don't show it.
We don't even talk about it.
Yeah.
Here you go. So yeah, exactly what Ben's saying here. Just why they're using legacy code, somehow a push for it, right? Is there really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the push, but that's interesting.
I've seen the hate. People don't like it. Well, people don't like anything that's popular. That's the problem.
Well, that's true too.
So you can't really. But it's just a different. You can use it if you want. I think they're still working on it. So I mean, it's not like it's.
I just looked at the website, and it's still running. They're up to 3.6.0, so they are still pushing stuff out. It's not like it's not abandoned. It's not a legacy technology. No. From a technology perspective, it's not. Now, what is the norms now for the industry? It might be kind of abandoned, but from a technology perspective, it's not abandoned. So yeah. Let's see. Maybe get some other questions here. Let's see. Godplay says, "Hi, I'm a 2020 CS graduate. Awesome. Congratulations. And I have my tech journey with FANG. Okay, 1.5 years now. Okay, awesome. I feel FOMO seeing guys building projects from scratch at startups. What actually matters at the start of a dev career?"
I think either one works, man. There's nothing wrong with working at a place. Sounds like you're doing like
just remember the grass is greener. That's the thing. Yeah. The guy on the other side is looking at you being like, oh man, he works with FANG. That's cool.
Yeah. So if you want to build something from scratch, build your own thing from scratch. But like I wouldn't have FOMO.
Yeah. But you do have to know they are very different, right? I mean, working at FANG somewhere, chances are, especially being like maybe a year and a half in or so, you're probably pigeonholed into one product, one thing of a product. And it's like, it's going to be, it is what it is. Where if you're at a startup, you're doing all kinds of stuff. You are building an entire thing.
And you're also saying FANG, the other advantage is you'll learn kind of processes and things that big companies do that you just kind of cut those corners into startup, where that can lead to disaster sometimes. But like you learn more about process too.
Yep. I think they both have advantages and disadvantages, don't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it is interesting, but I would say it's probably going to be easier.
You're probably getting paid more at the FANG too.
That's true too. Yeah. It's a guaranteed paycheck at FANG. It's probably not the guaranteed paycheck at the startup. Plus, I would say having the FANG job first will definitely help you get the next job, right? If you go to apply for a startup, they can be, oh, this guy worked at Amazon or worked at Facebook. Google, that's gonna look good for you. Whereas the other way around, it's not as impressive. You're like, oh, he worked for a startup that maybe nobody's ever heard of, or maybe it failed or
Right.
whatever, and then trying to get FANG is a little bit more difficult. So you've done the hard part.
Right.
Going the other way is much easier.
Cool.
Okay. Oh, I love this question.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ridge Rate actually says, yeah, the FANG company, you have mentors and senior devs around your startup, it might just be you. And we've definitely seen that. We've seen like...
Yeah, startup typically is just you.
I mean, we've seen like Coder Foundry grads.
As a startup guy myself, you know.
There you go. But we've seen Coder Foundry grads go into like 1 or 2 men teams, haven't we too? Like we're talking about like totally green, like you've been doing this for like 6 months and a startup's like, I'm going to take a chance on a developer. And it's like, and it's all you. You got to be a certain type of developer to do that.
Yep.
So there is that too, yeah. Yep. Okay, uGraphics says, how much data structure and algorithm should I have to learn, and where I learn these data structure and implementation? They are a newbie.
So LeetCode is a good place to go and look at those kind of things. And then there's all kinds of courses about this. Just Google it. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff out there.
There's lots of people trying to help with this, isn't there?
Yeah.
And this is, I think you do LeetCode for free too, right? It's not.
I don't know. I'm sure there's a paid plan somewhere
I think there's a paid part of this, but I think you can do some stuff for free too, though.
Yeah.
I don't.
I don't know.
But yeah, this is the place to go. It is leetcode.com, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, look, they have top questions from Microsoft. That's a lot. But that is interesting. So they do have a premium feature, look, too. They have a free and a premium feature. So.
Yeah.
What do we got next? Mailer says, hello, Coder Foundry. Is it true that you need to know many things before going to an internship in a software company?
Not necessarily. I mean,
I like this question.
When you go to the interview, they'll tell you what they're looking for. And like, typically I would say that they're there to train you on what you need them to know about whatever they do. So I wouldn't say that you're gonna have to know everything.
Yeah, it's gonna depend, isn't it? The question is really like, where's the bar, right? How much do I need to know? And that's gonna differ depending on like Bobby said, what they need, what the job is.
And then also too, is the company, is it truly an internship, or is it just we call it that and we just want to pay you less? I mean, there's that too, where it's really I'm hiring a junior dev, you know. So like, I don't know. As long as the thing's not free, I don't believe in free internships. I don't believe in that.
Right, you should be getting paid.
But I'm in the U.S., so I don't think anyone should work for free ever. I think you should get paid for your time.
Right.
So just interview and go to the interview, and they'll tell you what they're looking for and what their expectations are.
Yeah, because it is gonna be different.
They're all different. They're all different.
Yeah. We would say bare minimum. I mean, bare minimum. You have to know HTML, CSS to get something like an email developer job. You add in JavaScript, that opens it up a little bit more. You add in a backend tech or framework, it opens up a little bit more. Front end framework, React or something, opens up a little bit more. You add in a backend technology, opens up a little bit more. Yeah. So the more you know, you better chance.
So now that I think about it, I don't think they would hire an intern with nothing. They're not going to do that. They're going to hire an intern that has something you've learned in college. You've done something.
100%. Yeah. You're not going to just walk in and just say, "Oh, I'm a guy off the street. I know nothing."
Yeah.
Web what? Yeah. They're not going to hire that person.
Exactly. What's a computer? You know.
Yeah.
So like, they're not going to do that.
Yeah. There is a bare minimum that they're gonna look for sure.
Yeah.
I don't even know if you heard of this. I haven't. EJS. Yes.
There's a bunch of them out there. Is that new? Is that yet another framework?
Is this flavor of the week? EJS embedded JavaScript.
Okay. Embedded JS. What's it for? For templating?
EJS embedded. Use plain JavaScript for some time.
I'll have to read it and see what it is.
Yeah.
We teach templating with vanilla JavaScript. We don't use a library.
Not sure.
So.
Yeah, don't know without reading a little bit more about it. Yeah, not we haven't run into that one yet.
Let's see what they're doing. This is the template tags and body. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, Curtis, what else do people use C# for other than web development? I'm about to graduate with a computer science degree, but I don't know what to specialize in.
So desktop. So if you're building a Windows desktop, you're using C# pretty much primarily. It's probably the #1 way to build a desktop application, period. So that can be in .NET, or it could be .NET MAUI to build a desktop whenever that gets released. But WinForms and WPF is probably the premier way to do it. But then there's also mobile, and then there's microservices, web API, that's kind of web, machine learning, ML.NET, Internet of Things, embedded .NET, game development.
This one's gonna be a big one going forward.
This is a big one. Don't underestimate that. And and MAUI too. MAUI is going to be pretty big.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, don't think this is a pigeonhole. They call it game development. I see this kind of name changing to sort of. Yes. I don't know. It's gonna change. It says it here. Develop 2D and 3D games, but it's gonna be meta development. That's exactly. That's where it's gonna be at. Yeah.
And then Microsoft will call it Meta X or something.
Oh, they'll come up with their own just terrible naming. It won't even be related. Yeah. It'll be just something.
Yeah. So they're trying to work on machine learning. I know they're working really hard on that. They're trying to make that a Python replacement. Will it get there? I don't know, but there's definitely, if you know .NET, you can start with ML.NET and just see kind of how far you can get and what its capabilities are, what its shortcomings are, and see if it's a true replacement or not. So. But I think right now that's still Python primarily in that arena. The Microsoft's going to make it easier. Once they do, it'll be, I can see a shift there happening as well. Because it's going to integrate well with the cloud and all the kind of workloads you can run inside of Azure, from speech to text or text to speech. There's a lot of things, a lot of imaging libraries for AI. So there's a lot going on there.
Okay. And somebody here said, what spec a MacBook Pro did you go for? One if 32 gig of RAM is overkill? The more the better.
No.
Parallels kills performance of 16 gig, but that might be the RAM. Apologizing for Intel when he thinks. Yeah. I did go with 32 gig. I went for the mid-spec M1 Max. I didn't go for the only difference between that was the number of like graphics cores. I went for the 24, not the 36 graphics cores, because it saved about $1,000. So it ended up being like a $3,500 machine, not a $4,500 machine. But I did go with 32 gig of RAM. I would say if you're getting something at this point and you can afford it, 32 gigs the way to go. Everything's so like RAM heavy. Like you just run a browser and you open Chrome and put 15 tabs in it, and you look at your RAM usage and like, man, I'm using like 60% of my RAM. Like that's already more than 16 gig. So it's kind of crazy. I actually upgraded the RAM in my PC too. I went from 16 to 32, and it's been so much better.
Yeah,
and I'm constantly using above 50%, so I knew it was a
64 on my laptop.
Yeah, you maxed out yours, didn't you, when you got it? Yeah, I could have gone 64, but again, they wanted an extra, like, I think it was $400, maybe $500.
Yeah.
I was like,
but and the fan still comes on all the time. So, but I'm running Parallels, and like this morning, we were talking about this morning. What I was doing this morning, I was running Premiere, Photoshop. I had Visual Studio open up on Parallels, and I'm running other stuff on the Mac side, and the fan's just like,
yeah,
it's like I need a new computer. I need something bigger.
Yep.
We go to Meta, start using the supercomputer.
So exactly, just book supercomputer time. You're like, what are you doing? You're like, well,
Parallels.
Exactly, like I'm running Parallels with Photoshop and Premiere. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, you need this. Oh, that's funny. But yeah, the new, by the way, the fan never comes on this machine. I've yet to have it come on. Even when editing and exporting video, it never comes on.
Right.
It's so quiet, it's insane. I say it never comes on. Maybe they do, and they're just really quiet.
So
you just can't.
Eventually, you will be able to. Yeah, eventually, you will be able to.
Yeah, that's kind of the downside to it. So, yeah, N17 Hero definitely. I would suggest if you can afford it. I know it's an extra, like, I want to say it's like $400 to double the RAM every time. Yeah. But I would say 32 gig is kind of the sweet spot at the minute.
Yep.
Okay. Let's see. Avashek wants to know what would be the best alternative of Windows application form.
I think he's talking about WinForms development. It's called WPF. So you use XAML markup, and that allows you to be more declarative in your markup. You have more control over it, and it just it's called Windows Presentation Foundation. So
this one instead of this one, right? This is the legacy kind of one. This is
even though they're still widely supporting it, and they brought it over to .NET 6, so they're not giving up on either or. It's just that if you need something and you really need control over how it looks, and really control over it, WPF's the way to go. It's different.
We were talking about this before. You end up with, if you use WinForms, ends up being this kind of
drag and drop designer.
But it's this gray box kind of stuff.
You can change it. They've done some stuff. It doesn't have to be Battleship gray everywhere. You can change it. But the last time I looked at it, it's always kind of like not quite like you can still tell like it's a WinForms app. It's like I see what you did there. That's a nice gradient.
Okay,
but it just doesn't flow. Whereas XAML's more, it's more fluid, and you just have a lot more control over it. It looks better.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong. I haven't looked at WinForms in .NET 6. So
I would say they even reflect that in these images here. Look, this one looks kind of nice and vibrant, and it's like this one's gray box they're dragging onto it. It just it has that.
Yeah. But it has an awesome designer, though. That's the people who love WinForms. They can just drag stuff on there, and it just works.
What is this used for? What's Universal Windows platform?
It's UWP, so that was a universal, so it could.
This pushes apps to other things, tablets, and
But that's really space where you need to be inside of Unity, and then, are you building stuff for the Windows Store anymore? Sort of.
Okay.
Not really. So like,
are we?
I don't know how much longer this one kicks around with that.
And this gets replaced by MAUI.
With MAUI, yeah. So I think, and then Unity would be the other one. They just don't own Unity. That's why it's not in this list.
Right.
So.
So there we go. Good question. I like this one too. We don't get this one very often. Abasi's fallen in love with F#, but is it good for getting a job?
Just look, I don't, I would say it's less than C# for sure. So like, but
100%.
Could you get a job with F#? I guess. Look around, just see if there's anything out there in your area, wherever you live, and just see if the capability, if people are hiring for it. It's less. Functional program is less, period, regardless of F# or whatever. It's just that people aren't doing it as much.
Yeah,
still.
I would say just a quick Indeed search look for the US. It only came up with 234 jobs.
That's really low.
That's really low. If we go for something like C#, it's going to come up with a lot more. 96,000 jobs.
96,000.
So it's like, I know that's not like a good, like maybe that's not a good barometer because they're not all going to be the right kind of thing, but it gives you kind of an idea at least.
Yeah.
So, and some of those there were, I mean, the first ones that came up in the F#
Rocket Mortgage.
They were F# engineers, so they are. It is, there's some things in IBM. Cool company.
That's a consulting company, or that's really like a placement.
There's decent pay here, but don't forget it is California, so I don't know, for Irvine, California, it's probably not amazing, but
Yeah.
But yeah, there is some stuff, but again, that's for the entire US open right now, only 234, so that's
really low. That's like a needle in a haystack type. Job search.
You're not maximizing your chances by doing that, unfortunately.
Maybe
in your market it's different.
Yeah, maybe it is different. What I would say for me, this is about, for me, is getting paid and getting a job. And like, that's my number one goal. So you got to use kind of what the industry is using. That's why we teach C#. It's not, if you follow tech Twitter, we're not in the top 5 languages or whatever. But then when you start looking at jobs, you're like, holy cow, everyone's using this.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And the myth that we dispelled too recently on one of our videos was, somebody's like, well, everyone's using it because they're all big corporate jobs. Not true. Most of the jobs that are running .NET C# are not corporate jobs. It was, I forget what the stat was, but it was like 60% or something. It was way more than half. Were
and that makes sense when you think about it. There's more small companies than there are large corps.
Right.
So,
but the myth is like the small companies don't use it, and that's just not true.
They do it. Yeah, they use it all the time. So 100%.
Yeah. Let me see this question.
All right, cool.
So hold on. Is there a framework in Python like Express.js?
I don't know.
What's the Python framework?
Is it Django?
Right. Is that
yeah.
It is Django. That's the one that we're not a Python place, but
okay, so this is a Node.js thing. So I mean, yeah, there's Django.
That's what you want to look up, Django. DJANGO.
Yep.
Okay. Wilson says, "Hey guys, I just jumped in. Is this first time? Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Wilson. We appreciate it. Hopefully you're still here.
Thanks, Wilson.
I just want to see you guys, Wilson. Thanks for. Oh, cool. Thank you. I thought I
All right.
didn't realize that was just a back pattern question, or not even a question. I just saw it was long, so I just threw it up there. But thank you.
Welcome to the channel, Wilson. Give us that sub.
Yeah, so give us a like.
Ask for that sub.
I would love that.
Give us a like and a sub.
Like. It definitely
We're still
helps.
looking for likes here on this video. We got 6.
Oh,
so,
and they are free, by the way, too. They're free. They're
like
free to you,
like.
free to us. Like it's
give us a like.
Free all around.
73 of you watching.
Abhishek has another question too. Then, what would be the best way for learning web dev? Is it creating an application first with a tutorial or without one? Shameless plug.
I think tutorial is going to be necessary. You go to learn.coder and learn everything you want, or go Udemy or whatever you want to do. But I think everyone's going to start with some type of tutorial. You need some frame of reference so you can understand what to go next. I doubt anyone's just open up VS Code and just cranking out a project. It's impossible. It'd be really hard to do.
Yep.
You got to watch a tutorial first. So I think that's the best way to learn. Shameless plug. Check us out.
Shameless plug. Always got to throw out the shameless plug. Not a plank question. I promise. I did not aim there. And just as a follow up to that, by the way, too, just Abby wants to know, can I learn direct C#.net? Second shameless plug. Yes, you can. Right there.
Yeah, you can learn C# right there. So we hopefully help you out. Love to help you out.
Kind of a related question too. Then I like this one. The future of the .NET developer.
Yeah, so I'm going to assume by your name and the logo there that you may be in Asia, somewhere like India or somewhere like that. So we may have different versions of like what's really real. So like I do know that Java is very ingrained overseas. .NET is just crazy inside the US, Europe, and all that kind of stuff. The reason is if you think about the future of the language or the platform, who's pushing that? And so behind this is Microsoft, and we made tons of videos on this, and it still holds true, is that they're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to make sure .NET is the most in-demand framework in the world. That's what they're trying to do. That's why they have Azure. That's why they do all of these things. They want to make Azure easier to use, and they want you to build applications. And so it is a bright, bright future. And when you look at Java, who's behind it? Okay, Oracle Sun. Are they pushing the needle on the tooling, the framework, the platform, and all that kind of stuff? And it's are they doing it at the rate that Microsoft is? Absolutely not. Microsoft is pushing this really hard. That's why we're going to see a .NET release every 12 months. And so .NET 6 just came out. .NET 7 will come out at the end of the year. And they're constantly pushing the envelope of evolution of the language, features, speed, performance. All of those things are on the top mind, and they have vast engineering efforts inside all of this. So yeah, it's huge. So I think you can be safe, even if you're somewhere where something is where it's mostly Java for that kind of stuff. Then you're going to start seeing .NET slowly erode those places as well, just because it's just going to be more modern. It's going to be faster. I mean, it's just going to be pushing the envelope. And then when people are looking around, hey, what I want to build something, it's going to be a natural choice to build it with .NET. Hope that helps.
There you go. Just one thing, Kevin, I don't see your question. So yeah. I just look back. I would just look back through, and it didn't come through. So I don't know. I wasn't avoiding it. Promise. If you have a valid question, I try and do them in the order that I that
Kevin,
they come in. But
we just answered two.
We did. So
you just asked us two questions. We answered them both, Kevin. So
we did. That's it. Done. Yeah. I don't know.
Try to put it in there again, and we'll look at it.
Just try it again. Yeah. I look back on. I don't know what's going on. It's not there. I promise. I haven't just avoided you, unless your question was something blocked by the bot or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Nightbot got frisky.
I don't see it if it is. So try it again. Sorry. Alex says thoughts on Salesforce development. I'm a Salesforce admin for 5 years, but I find I need real code often. I've been learning C# for fun.
Yeah,
that's a good sign.
So as you know, that Salesforce has their own coding language, and so I forget what it's called off the top of my head.
Yeah,
but it's a big deal, man. I mean, a lot of people use Salesforce.
Salesforce is massive. It is massive.
So you can make a living doing that for right now. So it's massive. If you want to break out of Salesforce and do something different, then those skills don't really apply to other domains. It's basically in and around Salesforce development. So, but doesn't mean you can't make a living with it. You absolutely can.
Okay. Let's see. Malar, what do I need to know about programming language before I can say I know the language?
I think if you can build applications, then you're good.
Yeah.
You're never going to know everything, so don't try to memorize every single thing there is to know. Make sure that you can know enough about web development or desktop development, whatever you're trying to build an application. And that involves I'm Googling, I'm looking at stuff, I'm maybe watching a tutorial to do this kind of feature, but you don't have to say you know the language. There's no one's going to. Can you build stuff with it? Is the thing. If you can't build anything, then you don't really know much. So. Cool.
Okay. Lotus is waiting on MAUI. I keep flip-flopping between mobile dev and web dev. Working through the CF Self-Paced course and the Udemy iOS course. So indecisive.
Nice. Yeah. I know how it is, man.
It's tough.
Pick what you want to build. That's what we always tell people. Pick what you want to build and focus in on that. And so you're doing our course and a Udemy course, and then as soon as we release MAUI stuff, you're gonna be doing that. Okay, cool. Just pick what you want to build and get actually, a job doing that.
Speaking of the course too, whoever's listening has a bug tracker app coming along. We added a whole bunch of new content, like 50
videos,
something videos now. I added a whole bunch, a few more after the first batch.
So I think you have everything you need to go ahead and build it and present it to an employer. We may add some more features to it, but
there's a few additional things around invites and those kind of things, but it's like add-on stuff. But the core of it is there now. Yeah, go have at it. It's all there. Yeah. And shameless plug.
Go build it.
At learn.com.
Yeah, go build it. The one project. Go build the one project. Hey, if you're just trying to learn, don't just stop and build the bug tracker right away. Make sure you go through the other stuff first so that you can get the most out of it. Yeah. All right, let's see. TK.
Because it just built on itself. So TK wants to know, they're graduating in May with a BS in computer science. However, I don't have any internship experience. Okay. Which is typical. Should I apply for internships or a full-time position?
Or both. That's what I would do. So I think at this point, man, you graduate from a BS with computer science, you need to be looking for employment at this point. You just spent 4 years studying and you should be able to get a job.
You're going to pay back that student loan.
Yeah, man. I mean, but that's why you go to the school, is to get a job. So apply for internships, full-time, part-time, contracts, whatever you can do to gain experience. And then if you don't have a portfolio and you don't have projects on that portfolio that you can show, start building those things, because that will help you in your job search. So start building while you're having your downtime looking, build some projects, build a portfolio, get it out there. So hope that helps.
Okay, I see Kevin's question now. I don't know if he just typed this in or it just came up, but here we go. We're going to go for it. I like the logo too, by the way. Kevin.
Okay.
Let's go. It's cool. Can you explain how to run the ASP.NET equivalent to cron jobs? I want to build an invoice app.
Scheduled. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna say this is something in your wheelhouse, isn't it?
Yeah.
I want to build an invoice app, but I don't know how to set up reoccurring invoices and payments. What would be the best strategy?
So there's a lot of things. I don't know anything about the architecture what you're doing, but like you can run things in as a task. You could schedule that directly on a web server or a Windows box to do it. So you can do PowerShell and schedule PowerShell things that run in the background. So there's a lot of ways to do that. So you're going to use a combination of, I've got some source code, I got an application written, and I need to schedule that application to run. So PowerShell is probably the one thing if you're writing something very non-visual, and then you schedule that thing to run either through a task manager inside of a Windows server, or there's services that you can also build a service and then run that through at the server level and schedule it that way. So there's probably other ways too. But that's pretty simple. You write some code and then you schedule that application.
And you've built apps just like this before, right?
Yeah, running
totally in your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Hope that helps, Kevin. Wolf says, I started learning C# 2 weeks ago. What would you suggest I learn next? Okay, you're 2 weeks into C#. Yeah. Slow your roll for a second. My plan for now is to freelance after because I work for my family company.
I'm done. I got it all.
Yeah, I don't think that's what he's suggesting, but you know, I mean, yeah. He's just saying like, hey, when I have finished C#, what am I going to do next? Which is good to look at. So he wants to freelance because he works for a family company.
So the main thing that I would do is build web applications as a freelancer. So you're going to have to learn HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So to build websites. Or if you're going to build desktop apps as a freelancer, then you've been building WinForms or WPF apps at this point. Or you've been learning C# to build mobile applications, and you can use Xamarin to do that. So it depends on what you're trying to build. I think the easiest thing to get into freelancing with is obviously web development. That's easier to do. So you need HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and some kind of database, SQL or Postgres or whatever you want to use.
Okay, Eric says, when Apple releases the headset, do you think it would be possible to debug your Meta app in a simulator without purchasing the headset? Oh, good question.
Yeah, so they'll all have emulators for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
just like we do now. But phones and things. But
it's an emulator.
Yeah.
And there's things that you need to test, like gesture support and those kind of things.
Yep.
I think if you're going to truly build a Meta app,
you're going to have to
have a headset. I just now a lot of it, you won't want to wear the headset all day long. So you're in the emulator trying to get some stuff working. But when it comes down to play testing it or whatever you're doing, and you've got to be able to put a headset on to do it, I would think.
I agree. It's more so the phone emulators, they're okay, but even they're not perfect. It's better to run it on a phone because they does have.
Eventually, you got to get there.
Eventually, you got to get there. So it's like it's going to be even more so with a headset because if you've played with VR AR stuff, the experience is very unique. It just is. Like I can't imagine an emulator being able to emulate it very well. Try going to watch go on YouTube and watch a VR YouTube video. It looks terrible. Go watch it on a headset. It looks amazing. It's like, oh, it's so good. It's like the experience is very, very different. So, I would say you're gonna have to have one.
Yeah, but you don't have to get the Apple one. These things will run on. You could get a cheaper one if you want to.
Maybe, hopefully.
Yeah.
Because don't forget, now, if you want to test it on an iPhone, you've got to have an iPhone.
Yeah. Oh, I know that. Yeah, if you want to build it and you want it to run on Apple as technology, you're still going to be in the dev program. It's going to be the exact same way it is.
Right now, I'm correct in saying even today, you still have to have a Mac to build those.
Xamarin.
Right. You still have to have the hardware, right? It's like it's licensed, so you can't build it on a Windows machine.
No.
That's just the way it works. But I would say, at least for the
walled garden.
It is a walled garden. But for the Meta stuff, don't forget their headsets are kind of their consumer price right now. We're talking about a $299 headset. So as a developer, it's like that's not a massive amount of money. It's not like buying a HoloLens at like $3,000, right? We're talking about 300. It's like it's definitely more achievable.
Yeah.
So it's not as expensive to get into.
Yeah.
Let me see. I think I skipped a few questions here by accident. Sorry. Let's see. I'm trying to make a GUI desktop application to host my C++ background service projects. Never used C# before.
Okay, just look at WinForms. That'll be the easiest one to adopt, and it's got a visual builder, and you just drag stuff on this thing and call your C++ application straight from it. So it should be pretty straightforward.
Okay, WinForms it is.
Yeah, WinForms for that one for sure.
Lourdes wants to know, how do you keep focused on the first language? You've done several little mobile apps, iOS. We're trying to focus on web due to the amount of work in my area. Focus on that.
Focus on that. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's tough not to chase like the cool thing that like is shiny and blingy and like it's, I don't know, it's difficult.
Cool.
Let's see. Visual says, wouldn't WinUI 3 be better to learn as it's in MAUI?
So MAUI is a new thing. So we're going to see kind of where it's going. So you got to understand what Microsoft's building out. They have WinForms, they have WPF, and they're going to have MAUI. MAUI is the first release of where you can build the application that will be pushed to a desktop and pushed to Mac OS on the desk. So if your goal is to get to mobile and desktop with the same app, MAUI is obviously the choice. If you're just doing desktop today, just learn WinForms and WPF because it's out there, it's proven, it's tested. Especially WPF, it uses XAML, which is a lot like Xamarin. They just run on different things, but this is all merging together. You're right about that. I mean, like eventually it may just be done at MAUI, but I think the WinForms designer isn't going to go away. So I think there'll be 3 of them for now. So.
Okay. Kurt wants to know, what do you think of Flutter?
So I think there's 3 ways to build applications that if I build a mobile app today, I would build it one of 3 ways: React Native, Flutter, or Xamarin. So yeah, it's in the top 3. So I like it. It's and then when you're really building a mobile app today, the one I wouldn't pick is Swift because it only runs on iOS, and that means I got to go pick up something else for Android. So, I think you pick one of those 3 ways to do it currently right now. Flutter is obviously built by Google, so that's probably even a better choice than React Native. So
it's not going anywhere, is it?
No, they're going to continue to push that. So.
Okay, Clara wants to know, do you think those Indeed estimated salary ranges are accurate?
It's possible.
I do.
I mean, yeah, so sometimes it is. I mean, sometimes it's not. I mean, like you just have to go interview.
Yeah, I mean, we know based on what we see for jobs, and when we look at them, we're like, yeah, that's not out of the realm of like, yeah, we see jobs like that.
Yeah, sure.
These
you're looking at, this isn't like someone straight out of college getting that. I mean, so like, you got to have some experience. You got to have some proof of work, what you've done. So, but yeah, these are real. They're not going to lie to you and try to cut bait, switch and bait you and say, well, it's really $7 an hour. Like that's not what it is.
Here's what's interesting though. Some of these are estimated. Look, so some of these are real. Some of these like LinkedIn are Indeed is trying to estimate these. This one I do find interesting though. C# and Encompass. So we can actually probably talk about this one because this one says it's 102 to 129.
That's not accurate.
That's high, right?
I know we're placing that.
I was going to say, we actually know like this job. Yeah. We know exactly this one. So in this case, I would say it's not accurate. But I would say ballpark, though, generally a lot of these are. Like these ones that really post are, and they're guessing them based on averages, right? I don't know if they're taking into account the market.
If you're a 4-year .NET dev, you're making $100K. That's just what you're doing. If you're in the U.S., outside of New York and California, you're across the country anywhere, you're 45 to 65 as a no experience, my first .NET job. That's what you're getting. And then if you're 2 years in, you're somewhere in between that and 100K, 75, 80. If you're 3+ years or 5 years and you're competent at what you're doing, you're doing really well. So they're pretty accurate, Clara. So that's what we're saying.
Yep, I would believe them ballpark wise. Jay wants to know, do you think that it is better to write the code down before typing it in?
No, I don't think so. I don't know why you would write it down on paper. I don't think so.
I'm guessing that's the question. Yeah.
No way. And so like if I had ID here, what I do is sometimes I write comments and I will structure what I'm thinking about before I start writing code down, so I can think about my structure. I may whiteboard some things and say, oh, okay, this is kind of what I'm going to do. This is the rough design that we're going to do. So, but I haven't, none of that is coding. That's more of high level. Here's the functions. Here's the models I need. Here's the things that we're trying to build when you're designing it. And then you get to coding after that.
And I would say, I've seen your process for this. I would say you often do a lot of that in the IDE as well. You will
just doing the IDE, just
you'll comment like you'll type out a comment in there, like a pseudocode comment in there, like, oh, I want it to do this, and then you'll come back to it and kind of code it up. I've seen you use paper for prototyping stuff. Like you have
so sometimes I want to prototype it out and like just so I can like play around with a couple of ideas, because it's quicker to do that than it is to like move divs around in an HTML page. And then there's a lot of people that use Figma and those kind of things. I don't use those. Maybe I should. Maybe I need to stretch what I do. But like typically I'm going from that paper straight to HTML at that point, and then playing around with it.
Plus, I'll also say, like, if you're writing out the code, I will also say that the whatever development environment you're in actually helps you a lot with writing that stuff too. Like if you're writing out like the divs and the opening classes and the closing classes like HTML or whatever you're doing, like it's just kind of waste of time writing it down paper. The IDE is going to do all that for you. Just rely on the IntelliSense and
the AI code assistant in Visual Studio 2022 is flat out amazing. Like I was using it yesterday in class, and I was typing in a property and it says, "Hey, property first name," and before I could type in the word first name, it says, "Hey, you want this to be first name?" And you hit tab to accept. And I said, yeah, I hit tab to accept. And then it says, oh, that next one's last name. And I hit tab twice and it built out both my properties. It was really, really cool. As far as like it knew what I was trying to build based on some other stuff that it surmised from my models or whatever it was. So it's pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
There's a good one for you. Boston Smith playing a devil's advocate. If WebAssembly, specifically Blazor, is the future, I'm assuming they watched that video, but you haven't watched it, go watch it. Then why are very prominent companies like Vercel putting everything into the JavaScript ecosystem?
Because it's current. I mean, it's mainstream.
Because they're making stuff right now.
Yeah, right now, today. And so WebAssembly's came out in 2017, excuse me. And then Blazor's just now coming into mainstream. What we're saying is this is the next thing, not necessarily the current thing. So like if I was building something today, actually I probably would use WebAssembly because it's just now getting there. It's like, okay, that's pretty feature complete. What are the things we're going to run into? But JavaScript is very mature and you know what you're doing. So as Vercel says, we know how to do this. We need to deliver. We don't really know about WebAssembly. So that's why we're going to do it. So, but that doesn't mean that WebAssembly isn't coming. The moment Vercel says, I want to do this in JavaScript, and WebAssembly comes up here and says, hey, I can do this way faster, and there's a reason why you want to do it, they're going to switch over to it, and that's what we're saying is going to happen. Yep. That's all we're saying. But like, yeah, I mean, if you're building a landing page website, are you using WebAssembly for that? Probably not. I mean, like you're using HTML and CSS and Bootstrap. I mean, so right tool, right time, right place. I'm just telling you that Blazor is going to be a big deal because of the speed, performance, and all of those kind of things that are running in the browser. You'll just eventually switch over. Hope that helps.
Okay. At the top of the hour, let's do one more. This was interesting.
One more.
This is advice that I haven't actually heard. Theron says, why do people avoid Node.js? I heard it many times that they advise me not to use it. I hear the other way all the time. That's what we seem to see.
Well, a lot of people use it in tech Twitter. They use it, and then you watch a tutorial on setting up a Node.js project, and it's just like, oh my gosh, it's like so much command line. And that's why when I show an ASP.NET project, and I'm at a trade show or whatever, and I spin one up, they think that I didn't show them everything. Surely there's something else, right? We got to write some command line stuff here. We got to pull in some packages and make sure my dependencies are working and make sure they're lined up. No, it's way easier to do. So that's why we teach ASP.NET for building a server page, a serviced or a paged multi-page application that runs pages on the server. ASP.NET is far superior to something like Node. It's just easier to do. It's more secure. It's blazingly fast. It's way faster. So that's what I think. But when you wanted a front end, a purely JavaScript front end, Node.js, you knew JavaScript. It was this combination of, hey, I can run the same language on the back end as I can on the front end. That's why it's invented. Doesn't mean you can't build stuff with it. Doesn't mean it doesn't work. It does work. It's fast enough in most cases. You know,
I think that's the reason we have it too, is because it's one less thing to learn. It's less complex. Yeah. Exactly. It's less complex, so it's there.
Yeah.
Does it work for everything? No. But does it work for a lot of stuff? Yeah. Like,
but if you watch Setup Node and you see them all the stuff from the command line when you're learning the first time, you're like, wow, that's like, I'll never remember all that. You know, and then you see an ASP.NET demo and you're like, push the play button and it builds everything for you, pulls the stuff in, you know, makes it all happen, you know. And that's the beauty of the .NET framework. It already has everything that it needs a lot of the times for. So the dependencies are worked out for you, and you don't have to like install this package, npm this, npm that, those kind of things. And you're not worried about what's my package manager and all that kind of stuff. So
when you do need that stuff too, I notice it just tells you.
Yes, you can do it.
It's really good at that.
Yeah, it's really easy. NuGet's really cool. So
let's do one last question before we rock and roll from here. What are some good examples you'd like to see on a front-end developer's portfolio site? Good question.
So let's define front-end developer. So like, let's assume what you mean by that is React. If you mean I'm just a front-end designer, then you need to have a lot of stuff that shows off your creative designs. And
for building it, you should build it. Everybody should build it, but don't put it on your portfolio.
Yeah, and then the other thing too that we do is like one that moved the needle last week for an employee, Coder Founder grad, was we built a mortgage calculator, which is like enter a term, payments, interest rate, and it calculates an amortization schedule. Seems simple, but this was a finance company, and they were just moved by that app. They're like, wow, that's kind of cool that you built that. And so when you saw business problems, those business problems relate to what the business is trying to do. You winner chicken dinner there at that point, man, because now you've proof of work, showed them in their domain, and they're like, wow, okay, you could work here because I've seen you do something like, and we do stuff like that. Right. No one is playing Pokemon at work for a job,
right?
Except for Pokemon. So like, if Pokemon API is your number one job, it's never going to move the needle with an employer. They might go, that's neat, that's cool, I see what you did there, I like that. But if you you walk up with a functional application that takes user input, does something with it, and displays it to the screen, it blows Pokemon and tic-tac-toe away, because it's that mentality of like, I'm seeing something that I do in your portfolio, proof of work, therefore I'm going to hire you. You know, and then if you're doing Pokemon API, the other risk you run with it is like, they may hate Pokemon. They wish their 8-year-old wouldn't spend all the time that they're doing on it. You know, like, it's like, I hate it. I hate that game, you know, and like, and here you are putting that out as your primary proof of work, and it just doesn't work. That's why you build business apps.
Yep.
I know it seems boring, and that's why one of my most controversial advice that I get constantly when I say this, I probably get 500 hate mails from that. Don't build your passion project. Build a project that they want to see. You're like, well, if I don't have passion, why would I do it? To get paid. That's the job. I mean,
the process, very rarely. We should have passion about the process, not about the end product.
The process is about passion about coding, not your project. You know, and that's why Tinder for hikers just doesn't move the needle when you're interviewing. Like, the guy may not understand what Tinder is, number one. Number two, he's never hiked. And he goes, why would I find a random guy to hike with? I don't understand the process. You know, and so where you're solving a problem, you think, oh, that's what everyone does. No. Solve a business problem. Those are the best ones to move. I can't underestimate that enough. When I see people show a bug tracker to a dev shop, they're like, okay, we use Jira. I get that. That's kind of cool what you did there. It just works. And that's what you want to see. So build things on your portfolio like the things where the companies that you're interviewing for. It just helps a lot. You know, I hope that helps.
There you go.
Lunchbox something. He had a cool YouTube name. What was that?
Hold on.
Lunchbox Blazers?
Did I hide
Is that what it was?
I dropped it. Sorry.
You dropped it. So anyway.
It's hidden there somewhere now. But look, we'll be playing Pokemon at work today.
But not for pay.
Not exactly.
I need you to capture a Pokemon for me right now. So get on it, Will.
There is a difference between playing Pokemon at work and playing Pokemon for work. Those are two very different things. You're right.
Yeah.
He's not like, get out in that corridor out there and catch that Squirtle or whatever it's called.
Exactly. You know, I
go
need a
get me
shiny
a Pikachu
one today or you're fired. I need a shiny Pokemon by 4 o'clock or you're fired. You know, and then Will's out there like.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's funny. That is funny. Okay, cool. We'll be back next week.
All right, be back on Tuesday. And good luck and keep coding. We'll see you. Have a great weekend.
Good weekend, everybody. Bye.